be looking at a track called Secunda from Elder Scrolls, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 6, that's for sure, but Elder Scrolls 5. That's right. And it's called Secunda by Jeremy Soule. And this track is pretty famous. It's really quick too. But there's like a lot of cool stuff going on here. This is from a location within Skyrim called Secunda, and maybe we could actually look at what that looks like. Did you play this before? So we've studied this before, but it's worth reviewing again. Because it's a cool part of the game, and the music has a lot of cool stuff too. So this is Secunda within Skyrim. This is what it looks like. Just some ambience of it. Pretty cool, right? So you can kind of see how the music like reflects the story and all that stuff, or the visuals rather. So it's very like yeah, you know, there's like the Aurora Borealis or whatever you call that stuff, the Northern Lights, and then you have like these pine trees, and it's cold and mountains and all that. It's very atmospheric music, and very atmospheric place in general, with kind of a more like ritualistic kind of sound to it. But yeah, I like this piece. It reminds me of Neverwinter. You know, you're not wrong. That's very true. So this is what the area is. So as you hear the music, just kind of keep in mind that this is what it's based on. So what we're going to do, because it's pretty short, I'm going to play it through, and then we'll talk about the orchestration, the melodic intervals, and kind of the cool patterns here. Because it goes like a D natural, then up to E flat, then up a minor 6, and then it goes down a 4th, then it goes down another 4th. So it's pretty cool because it's like, it has like these interesting intervals that it does. So you just kind of give it like this sound of just like dum dee da dum dum dee da dum. It's just really cool, and the chords change underneath. But the intervals just kind of stay very consistent. Which is pretty cool, I think. So yeah. So let's run it through, and we'll see what's up. Oh, you're playing Neverwinter this morning? Nice. Up a bit. The song is very famous. It's so cool, especially the chords. This is a great example of texture, by the way. Dude, that bass. That's crazy. It's so good. Especially the choir that's just brought in here. Such good balancing. Notice the plucked instruments are gone. It's like a true B theme. I'm not sure why they moved to 12/4 in the meter. That's a little confusing to me, but this sounds like KOTOR. All right, that's Secunda, man. So let's play it with some analysis. How do you add the video to the... Oh, so this is like this is a YouTube channel. And I'll give you guys links to their channel here. You can check it out here. They have a lot of like Skyrim score reductions. It's really nice and convenient to look at. So we're kind of just going to be analyzing the orchestration and the reduction. Oh, you have the VR version of Skyrim? It would be good if it didn't make me feel sick. You know, my brother plays like a lot of VR, and he has that, and it is crazy. I remember playing it. I see what you mean about making you sick, because it's like actually kind of crazy. Like, it's like full Skyrim, but you're in VR. It'd be fun to play on stream, but I think I'd like trip and fall or something. So yeah, dude. So let's talk about the orchestration here, chat. Um Again, I'll put the link below in the comments or in chat too. If you guys want to check out the video, it's pretty cool. Eric Hoting has a lot of really good analysis videos from a while ago. Like this is like 3 years ago. It's a shame they don't upload more videos cuz it's great stuff. Um Anyway, so what's cool about this is I think it sets like this kind of ostinato, and I think this is a good example of how to do ostinatos. Um, Basically what happens is you have it playing a D natural as a pickup, because it's in 3/4, right? So 3/4 time, and it is 90 BPM, but it says wistful. So it has like this kind of, ritualistic kind of like atmospheric kind of sound to it, and it's to the quarter note. And again, it has like the semi-quaver thing, so it means like it's about 90 BPM. So again, it's in 3/4, so you count this as like 3, 1, and 2, 3, 1, and 2, 3, 1, and 2, 3. And it just kind of is that vibe the whole time. Like, look at all the times you play the eighth notes. Eighth note there, eighth note on 1. It's 1 and, 1 and, 2, 3, 1 and again, 1 and, etc., etc. So what Jeremy Soule does is he really sets this groove into our minds. So it's like, okay, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. And underneath that though, he has the lower part of the piano sustained with the harp harmonics basically. They're sustaining the E natural. So there's probably 2 harps playing this, by the way. They basically play a harp harmonic playing D, and then it goes to E flat. Then the E flat plays down on this D natural here again, doubling. So harp player 1 is playing the top line here with the subdivisions, and then underneath it, you stabilize that rhythm by playing with harp 2. It goes 1, 2, and then 3. So what this does is basically, instead of doubling every note, what you do is you take 2 harps, and you basically just have them play like different subdivisions while doubling the same notes. It's just really, really, really good orchestration in general. Again, with orchestration, if you find yourself just truly copy pasting and doubling things, especially in this situation, it's not going to really add contrast to your music. So if you're wanting to create texture, this is a really great way to do it. And if we think about layers too, notice the pedal tone here. It's playing a E natural, and I think it's like, it says C3, so I'm sure it's pitched. So what's happening is basically it's playing this sustained note here as like a drone. And Skyrim music does this a lot, by the way, especially for that atmospheric music. There's tons of like sustain pedal and drone sounds. So what Jeremy Soule does is he has chord changes that kind of play over top of all this. The ostinato pattern continues, and what's clever is he plays a G13, and it's in the 6/5 inversion. But what's cool about it, I think, which is like the second inversion, what's cool about it though is this pattern, it's just going D, E flat, C, G, D, and then basically what it does is it just kind of just constantly moving in that groove. Doesn't change rhythmically. It's like the same exact pattern, other than like pitch altering slightly. Because then here it goes, E flat to C, E flat to C, then it goes D natural to G. So you kind of have this 4-bar phrase. So it's like 2 different groups, group 1, group 2, and they're in 4 bars, right? So you kind of have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which creates a 8-bar phrase in total. And then it kind of moves along, and just kind of like creates variation on that last bar. So you'll notice it's always the same intervals until it gets to the last bar 4 of the loop, where it starts to change up here and here. Pretty cool stuff. Hey, Wolfram, what's up? Just got done watching Frozen 2 with the kids? Nice. I've never seen Frozen 2. Was it good? I've heard good things about it. I still need to watch that. So yeah, you got the harp harmonics here doing some cool stuff. And it's just doubled by supporting the guitar. So you again chat in orchestral music and music in general. Could be pop, could be jazz improv, could be a soloist, different things like that. Basically what happens is you have like your lower layer, so layer 3, this is the background drone. Layer 1 is like your main melody, so middle ground. Or I guess it'd be like technically like layer 2. And then you have layer 1, or sorry, I'm mixing up my numbers. Layer 3, layer 1, layer 2. So middle ground, background, foreground, kind of thing. So your guitar is kind of creating like a variation on this rhythm here, so that's supporting the harp, and that's also why he's using guitar, because it's like a plectral instrument, right? So it has like a plucky sound, kind of like harp does. Just a lot more short, not as much sustain as a harp would have. Just because harps are massive, right? So basically, what he's doing is he's creating contrast by having these guitar chords here, play some different subdivisions on the offbeats to reduce the score to this rhythm to help support the drone. So basically, the drone supports the guitar, and then the guitar supports the main melody here. And in the end, you kind of have everything working together as a nice unit. So everything is like you have 3 different layers and textures going on in terms of ideas, but it's nothing that's going to like change up the piece too much in terms of just contrast, right? So you have a really consistent orchestration that just connects everything together throughout this. Pretty cool stuff. So it's good, not as good as 1, but actually a good sequel. Really? That's kind of shocking. Usually sequels are pretty bad. And I feel like Frozen 1 set such a high bar. I'll have to check it out. So we'll play this again. Notice how also the chords don't change until the end of the 4-bar phrase. Group 1, group 2. Chords change here. Chords change here. Now, here's the cool part. The harp on the second pass through of the phrase, because it's like this AABA kind of form, what happens is the guitar starts doing a lot more strumming kind of stuff. So they're just playing like, G, C, E flat, and G natural, so just like a regular chord, and like a guitar style. The sustain pedal is still on that C3 pedal, just the whole time through. And then you have the piano coming in. So what's really cool about this, though, and important to note, is rhythmically the piano is working in tandem to some degree with the harps, except they're actually playing 1 and then down here, the piano plays the C on 2 and 3. So instead of the half note being here on beat 1 and 2 and then changing on 3, the piano part actually plays the opposite. So it's doubling rhythm in the left and right hand, contrary motion. One line's going up, the other line's going down. Harp is ascending. So you have this really nice movement, parallel basically. Or not parallel, but like contrary movement. And then you just have like this really cool interlocking texture where things aren't moving together. And another thing to note, notice how the piano is not doubling with the harp. That's because harps have actually tuning issues. And it's not that you can't double a harp and piano together. It's just that over time, harps slip out of tuning a little bit. And it's going to become pretty obvious that the piano is in a different like tuning than like your harp would be. So to avoid this issue, what you can do is actually take this to your advantage and create cool textures. So it's not that you can't have them passing in tones. It's just don't have it directly double 1-to-1. And that's what Jeremy Soule does here. When the harp goes E flat to E flat, and then down to minor third, and then down to dominant 7th to the D natural, he has the piano playing G, while the harp's playing at E flat, right here. Piano plays G in octaves, like 2 octaves there. Then they go to this kind of third interval, while the harp's playing above the piano. So you basically go from the piano being below the harp to below... Sorry, the piano goes from being above the harp to then below the harp here, and then it goes back apart. So when the harp is descending, the piano is moving up. When the harp goes back up, the piano goes down. And that's how you create this really cool groove. And what's stabilizing what stabilizes it all is because you have eighth notes, 1, 2, and 3 and. The guitar player is just playing on beat 1, and then they're going 2 and then 3. And then here they go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just quarter notes. And then he changes it up to double the rhythm 1-to-1 with the harp. So again, guitar is kind of working together here. And they do 1 and then 2, 3. And then they do that stable rhythm again. So you kind of can see a pattern here again. Here's 4 bars, right? So group 1, and then there'll be another 2 bars after this. That'll lead into the B section. So you can kind of, if we play this back through, you can kind of hear all this works together. Yeah, if we say Frozen 1 is 100%, I put Frozen 2 at about 70. I feel like that's pretty good for a sequel then. That adds up. So notice that the harp is like interlocking between. Pretty cool. Also, I think that's a classical guitar. It's pretty warm. So there's one more loop here. The harp's a little bit more active now. Same for the guitar, actually. There's more notes now. Now, transitions into the B theme. A little bit of a filler thing. So again, now he's doing another 4-bar phrase. Look at this. Group 1, 4 bars. Group 2. So you can see what he's doing is he introduces this rhythm change and then introduces the sustained piano with the strings in group 1. And then he has a soprano playing this E flat that's tied up here on beat 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So again, it's 4-bar phrase. And then he has some soprano and altos in the choir singing like these triads here that sustain all the way through. So they're changing pitch throughout here. And they're changing chords a little bit, but the ostinato stays the same throughout here and here. And then the sopranos just glue it all together along with the strings. So the sopranos here and the string sections are really just kind of all one idea in terms of texture. And then the sopranos, the melody, this is the rhythmic layer. So group 3 in terms of layers, background, this is your main middle ground, the part you really pay attention to, and then group 2, which is like what supports everything in terms of subdivisions. And I think that if you're writing this kind of Skyrim style music, it's really important to kind of follow this algorithm in terms of like, or not, maybe not algorithm, but like it's important to follow this template in terms of writing. And that's why, again, I'd really recommend listening to like some counterpoint. Jeremy Soule's mentioned how much he loved Bach's music and it influenced a lot of his writing. And I think that if we're going to try and write music that's like this, you gotta not study so much this kind of music, but instead you should look at like Bach's chorales, counterpoint that he had written, like imitation counterpoint, different things like that. It's all really important stuff, especially his voice leading throughout this. So, yeah, so with all that in mind, let's run that part through again. Notice how he brings in the cellos and bass here. With the drone is still playing, by the way. All the way through with the piano now. And sorry to pause it again, but this is another point that's really important with this kind of writing. Chat, when you're using drones to sustain and create low end, don't just have a drone that just is like a whole note that ties over to another whole note, that ties over to another whole note, and it just sustains indefinitely. That's boring. Just because you have a pedal tone that's the same note doesn't mean it has to just be one thing sustaining. You can add pulse. It can not change in pitch, but you can change the rhythm. And Jeremy Soule does that. The whole time there's a drone playing, but he has the piano coming in now. So basically you have your strings and octaves that are all sustaining in like this 4-bar phrase again, right? So they only change bowing when they do like the phrase change here. You can see the same thing in the violas here, except on beat 4 they change to a different chord. So they're probably just going from like C minor 7 to maybe like G for a second or something, right? Because it's like a dominant 7 sound. You have the B flat there, then you have the C down below, etc. So what I'm trying to say is basically you can see though how he uses the piano to have like a pulse that's added weight on beat 1. So just because you have a drone that sustains through an entire piece doesn't mean you can't like create variation in that by just having it like introduce different rhythms and stuff. And that's why it always just like I really am not a fan of like writing ostinatos, because I think if you just find yourself copy paste, that's like so boring and it's just lazy writing. And I think that this is a great example of if you're going to do ostinatos, it's like a perfect way to do it. Because an ostinato is only an ostinato when it's a repeating line. But when you start adding changes to that, just little notes, they change, like, the whole thing sustaining is one texture throughout here, but he just moves the B flat up on beat 4 to a C natural, and it changes the sound completely. So, if you find yourself writing ostinatos, I would highly recommend not just writing 4-bar loops or 1-bar loops. Try to, like, look at your piece of music you're writing as an overall arcing texture, and look at ways you can add different variations to that stuff, because it really makes your music just sound so much more just human and just more realistic. And I think that it's something that's not talked about enough, especially when there's a lot of like I don't know, when there's a lot of like epic orchestral music and stuff. There's ostinatos and all that stuff, but it's like you gotta look at how, like, composers like John Williams, for example, with Star Wars Episode 2 or 1, the motif where it's like da da dee da dee da dee dum. That's an ostinato, but the whole thing doesn't feel like just one idea. It's literally like just it's a great example of how to do an ostinato, which I would love to study that score, but DMCA. So unfortunately we can't. But I think this is a good example of an ostinato and how you can do it really effectively. So as we listen how the bass line changes. It's so good. And now the soprano's just carrying the whole weight. Pretty unified texture too. Still in a 4-bar phrase. So pretty. Except notice how these are sustaining in the middle, so he's interlocking. You have tie, tie here, tie there after the break of 4. So group 1, group 2. And then what happens is you kind of have these interlocking voices where you have this kind of working with that in between the sustain, and then this is interlocking in between here. And same exact thing too if you look at your bass line down in the strings. So you can see how he's like has sustaining elements, and then he has other elements that kind of create movement. It's just really, really good orchestration. And then he does like these polychord clusters. It's D over top of E flat major. It's a D minor over E flat. Super cool. Again, I'm not sure why he moved to 12/4. I don't understand that. Maybe to save measures or something. I just don't know why it's not in 4/4 or even 6. I'm not sure why it's in 12/4, but pretty cool piece. I'll include links to this in chat and down below if you're watching the video.